All right, we're back to add the code to the Obtain Credentials Submit button action. The first thing we'll do is the same thing we did in the Cancel button method. We're going to end the sheet and order out self. So I'm just going to copy this, Command C, and paste it with Command V. And our next step is to get values from the text fields. So I'll just put those into NS strings for right now. If you remember, the way we get values from text fields is we use the string value method. So our first field is username text field, and we'll call the method string value. We'll do the same thing for the password field. And once we've acquired both of those values, there's a few things that we'll want to do. So I'm just going to paste in some instructions here. These are the things that we're going to want to accomplish in this method. The first time this method is executed, we know that the user will be entering their credentials for the first time. Subsequent times that this method is executed, the user may be resubmitting their credentials. Maybe they've changed the information on their Twitter account, they've created a new account, or they're just switching between accounts. Either way, when we get to this point, we're going to want to set a value somewhere saying that they do not have approval so that the next methods can continue correctly. So the next thing we want to do is check to see if the user has entered credentials. Did they actually fill anything into the username text field and the user pass text field? If not, if they left one or both of those blank, we're going to want to show a warning and then show the credentials window again. And once we have credentials from the user, we're going to want to check to make sure that those credentials are valid. Once we know they're valid, we'll save them to the preferences file and we'll update the title in the window. If they're not valid, we'll show a warning and then show the credentials window again. Now we could put all of this code inside of this one file. But for this tutorial, let's create a class that will handle checking if the user has credentials, if those credentials are valid, and sending updates to Twitter. Let's open up our side panel. Let's toggle open Performers, and we're going to right-click on the Performers group, click Add, and New File. We're going to choose Objective-C class, and hit Enter, and we'll call this one TM Twitter. And click Finish. The first thing this class needs is two instance variables to keep track of the username and password. We're going to create these first using standard setter and getter methods so that you can see what those are like. After that, we will switch them to Objective-C 2.0 property and synthesize methods. Let's add our instance variable declarations. These are NSString. And the first one is username. And the second one is user pass. Next, we'll add the setter and getter declarations. You will also hear these referred to as accessor methods. The first one will be set username. And this is going to take a string. And we'll use name as the variable. Next, we'll declare the getter method for username. So this will return a string. And there's no parameter for that method. Next, we'll create the setter method for user pass. It too will take an NS string as a parameter. And lastly, we'll create the getter method for user pass. So it's going to return an NS string and no parameter there either. So we've created setter and getter methods for both username and user pass, and there's a very specific way that we want to do this. For creating setters, we just put set in front of the variable and capitalize the first letter of the variable. For the getter method, we just use the variable name. Now, one thing to be aware of is that you never, ever want to use the term get, G-E-T, when creating a getter method. This has to do with key value coding. Now, we won't be going into KVC in this tutorial, but this is a rule you need to follow. It's very important. So the next thing we'll need to do is go over to our implementation file and write the code for each of these getter and setter methods.